Welcome everyone to Dardashat in Aramaic, which means interview. We are having so many friends from all over the world and partners and donors. And I want today to meet with Mr. Walt Hand. And Mr. Walt is, for the meantime, living in Mexico, and he is originally from USA with his wife Nancy, and he have such an interesting testimony. He have such an interesting ministry, and we're gonna learn about them and about their lives. Hi, Walter.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. How is the weather in Mexico?
Perfect. It's beautiful. Sunshine, no clouds, very clear.
Great. Is it summertime there right now?
No, it is winter, but we are at an elevation of about a mile high. And so the temperature is always, very warm. It's very comfortable. It's like, 33, 32 centigrade. So it's nice.
Great. So which part of Mexico you're located?
Very central between the U.S. border and the Nicaragua border, maybe a little closer to Nicaragua border and not on the coast. So that's why we don't have the humidity of the coast. We're inland.
I see. So tell us about yourself and your background a little bit, and what do you like to share?
Okay, I was born in Canada, and then I went to Stanford University for a PhD. Got my PhD, married Nancy. She is fourth generation Californian, which is unheard of. You don't have fourth generation. So that's such a new area. We got married in, 46 years ago now. And we've got 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl. And one of our boys is in Thailand. Their home is a foster home, so there's 11 children there, which we count as grandchildren. In fact, this last year we got a great grandchild.
Wow, great!
So we have many grandchildren.
So how did God call you to this part of the world, to Mexico?
It had to do with retiring. We were in California. And I don't know if everybody knows, but California is very expensive. And we were looking to retire. And the only way we could do it was for me to work into my 70s. And I said, no. And we found out there's this very beautiful spot in Mexico. There's a very large natural lake. The temperature is perfect. But more importantly, I could retire at 66. Wow. And afford it. And now we've been retired since then, and we're living very comfortably. So God led us here, simply retirement. But then once we got here, we said, okay, Lord, we're now that we are retired, we're available. And we think he forgot the word retired and just heard available. And we have been so busy since we got here 14, 15 years ago. And he just keeps opening new doors for us all the time.
So what's your passion when you get retired? What you want to do? What's your passion? What's on your heart? Because you have now more time suddenly and free time. So does God call you even after retirement and give you your heart desires? How it happened? What's your passion?
Okay, I would say that our passion, number one, is you would know this, music. Yes. Our number one passion is music, and then we wanted to serve wherever we could give back. And interestingly enough, God had us get in contact with some missionaries in this area that had just started a boys' home, and the boys' home just seemed to be a place that we would fit and would be able to serve in various capacities. We've been on the board of directors. We've been directed in the workshop. And now our not-for-profit organization is the primary source of funding for for the boys' home called Hope House. And we always claimed we were not going to be fundraisers, but God says, "Oh yeah, watch me." And it's just been a very interesting to say the least. So I'd say now that we're involved with the boys' home, it's that. We got a Bible study on Saturdays where we're mentoring a couple of Mexican boys, and then of course music. Nancy leads worship of the worship team, and at my age, I'm still playing bass in a worship band. So he just keeps allowing us to serve that way.
Yeah,
And of
music.
course, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, in music, you know this. How did we meet you? Through Global Missions Project. Okay, and
Correct.
through through that, we've been able to visit a lot of countries, but using the talents God has given us for His purpose, and so that satisfied that itch.
Right. And this is how we met. And this is when you came first to Israel. How many times you've been to Israel? When was the first time you remember?
Yeah, 5 times. We've been there 5 times. The first time was with your brother Tony,
Great.
and then you came along, and we got to meet you, and then we worked with you the next few times.
Great. Before we get to Israel part, I want to ask you how many is the orphanage, boys and girls, or only boys?
Only boys, and it had to do with boys' ages and so forth, and issues when you've got teenage boys mixed with teenage girls. I'll leave it at that. And so they were going to put the boys out in the street, and this missionary said, "You can't do that," and open a boys' home. Uh, we've had as many as 26. Right now with COVID, we've dropped down to about 16 because many have returned home or just reached the age of 18 and left. And because of COVID, they haven't been replaced. So the goal is to go back to 26.
I see. And what is the reason that these boys are here in this orphanage? What's the reason? What's the main reason?
Mostly, I would say because they're abandoned and abused. And when I say abused, Andre, I mean something that you and I can't fathom. A father beating them, and we're out on the street trying to find food in garbage cans. So most of them have that kind of a background. Very occasionally, you have somebody the family can't afford because school costs money, for example, and they just said, "You guys raise my boys, not me."
I see. And what, like, what are the challenges at the orphanage for these kids? What's the main challenges you have?
The main challenge is the boys come with uh, baggage because of their backgrounds, and many of them come in under medication, and the goal is to take them off the medication, give them a loving, secure home so that they can feel like, hey, I'm a real person. And from what we've observed, if you walk into boys' home now, you'd never know their background. They're just happy, friendly, and outgoing.
Great.
And then, of course, the ultimate, of course, is to present the gospel to them because they wouldn't have that otherwise.
I see. Because in Israel, we can't present the gospel. Actually, it's not allowed for boys, for teenagers below 16 years old. And in Mexico, are there any regulations, or you can easily freely share the gospel with kids?
It turns out there aren't Mexican government regulations, but you always have donors or people who want to get involved that are, from whatever religion or totally atheistic, and they want to impose their view on the boys. And we always try to say, it's hard for us to say, yes, this is a Christian home, because immediately you lose a lot of donors. So we're very careful how we state it. But that is, I would say, the one issue we would have.
I see. Now, do you mentor these boys for a certain age, and do they go back later to schools, or they go back to their homes? Do their parents accept them, want them back when they see the change? or what, until what age you have them?
Originally, it started age 10 to 18. And then there was like a 1-year-old boy was down at the police station, and the director went down and says, no, we can't take under 10. And he looked at this little boy and he says, okay, so now it's from baby till 18. Mexican law says stop at 18. They have to go out in the street. Well, that means you just have to turn them out loose on the street. But what we've done is we built what we call a transition house, where when they reach age of 18, they go in there, but now they either have to work for the boys' home or get a job and pay rent and pay for food. So they're now learning to become independent. Some go back to their families. In fact, I think that would be probably most of them when they go back, their families all of a sudden, like grandparents will say, come and live with me. And it's hard for the staff at Hope House to release the boys because they've nurtured the boys, but then they realize this is family. So I would say they either go back to family or they go to the transition house and they go out on their own and start making money and learn to live independently.
So Walter, you just educate them, give them just good foundations, and then set them free.
Pretty much. I mean, they all grow up and when they get 20, 21, they're out, they get married, they have children, they have jobs. But you say educate them. Interestingly enough, a year ago, God laid on my heart, these boys, if they speak English, means money. Because there's an expat community, and if they can speak English, like as a waiter, they can make good money. So God laid it on my heart a year ago. I'm an engineer. I don't speak good English, okay? And I'm teaching English now to there are 4 of them. They're 15, 16 years old. And so it's that kind of thing. You got to have your ears and eyes open, and then you see an opportunity and step in, and God provides.
Yes, I see. And Walter, can you share with us that this ministry is completely depends on donations, correct?
Yep, 100% donations. The Mexican government regulates the orphanage. They have you got to put in a new emergency door here, you got to do this, but they won't give a single peso towards the boys' home. They'll tell them how you got to improve, but no money. So it's all total donations. Several locals provide food and stuff like that, but most of our money comes from the U.S. through our 501c3.
How many staff do you have, or only you and Nancy are the staff, or do you have more staff to help you?
Yeah, we're not really staff. We just make sure that the money flows through. I'll teach English. We taught in the workshop, both Nancy and I. But I forgot what I was going to say.
How many
so
staff?
We're not on staff, but on staff, there's some part-time because you got to have somebody sleep with the boys at night, and you can't have the regular staff. So I would say total, which includes people who spend the weekend or spend the night sleeping with the boys, there might be as many staff as there are boys. Wow. Or maybe less.
And they all
but they're not full-time. They're not full-time. You have some that are there for full-time. I would say about 4 or 5.
All right, Walt. If there's people that are hearing this on podcast or on YouTube, is there a specific website they can go and help, or if God puts on their hearts that they're touched by this?
Yes.
To share?
Okay. It's one word, Hope House Children's Relief, and not an apostrophe between the N and the S. It's Hope House Children's Relief, no apostrophe. .org.
Great. Great. And I will put all this on the description below. And the That's really
Just so we
exciting.
get just so we get it right, I will send you an email with
Yes,
it.
that's
And
great.
we have a monthly newsletter that goes out to the intent there is to make donors feel like they're part of Hope House.
Great. So they can enter to the website and they can sign up to be part of this email list, correct?
That's correct.
Great. That sounds, it's a lot of responsibility what you're doing. And Nancy, that's a lot after retirement. It sounds like heavy, good responsibility.
Well, it's like I said, when we said to God we're retired, but we're also available, he forgot the word retired and said, okay, I'll use you.
So you've been 5 times in Israel. That's a really a blessing. And I want you just to share with me. I know there are many things to share, but share with me what is your favorite place in Israel and why? Maybe one or two places, one in Galilee, one in Jerusalem, and why it's your favorite place. And when you go to Israel, also tell us how you do with music, the ministry. But first, what is your favorite place in Israel?
That is a hard question to answer because we've pretty much been all over Israel because we've been there. Uh, with the missionary, we go early and stay later than the GMP trips to help them out with the sound equipment and all that. And they drove us all over. Obviously, Old Jerusalem is always fascinating. To walk these narrow streets and say, you know, Jesus walked here. Or the one that gets me is up in Capernaum
Yes.
on the beach, and you sit there and you look at the beach, and you go, "That's when Jesus looked out on the boat and said, out on the water, and said, Peter, follow me," and he did. And you go, "Whoa." Um, Caesarea was very interesting also because of the Roman influence on that one. But all the places that we went to see were very interesting because of the history and the scriptural references that we encountered.
Yes, and especially when you come with GMP, it's you're not only touring, you're doing also musical, instrumental, and you're doing a lot of festivals and activities all over. But what like was unique about you, Walter and Nancy, is your serving heart, because I saw how much you serve behind the scenes and how much you carried equipment, and that touched my heart when I saw that,
Hmm.
because I'm the tour guide, I just only give explanations. But when I saw you serving behind the scenes, that was mostly how I connected with you. So tell
Oh,
me, like, what do you think about that?
in a way, Andre, we've got mixed emotions. Obviously, we like to serve, and the one time that it really hit us was going through Old Jerusalem. Well, practically anywhere. New visitors to Israel are going to take a lot of pictures. Well, they finally start dragging out at the end of the tour group, and somebody had to be there to herd them forward. So when I say mixed emotions, this was being a servant and saying, okay, Andre, we'll help you by making sure people don't get lost. But then we missed out on the excellent lectures that you were giving up front. We couldn't hear them. So we'd sit there and go, okay, do we herd the cats or do we go up and listen to Andre?
That's a big
So that was a mixed
sacrifice.
emotion point. Pardon?
That's a big sacrifice to serve and be behind the scenes. So I
Uh,
noticed all of that. For me as a tour guide, I want to tell you that when I see people doing this, it helps me so much. You have no idea, because when many tourists come, they want to take and take and take and receive and receive and receive, and they become spoiled and they want more and more. But you were different, you and Nancy. You were giving and giving and giving. You were serving and serving and serving. As me, I was noticing all of that because that was a great help to me, because you have the large groups, like 50 people coming, and Jerusalem is like a maze and you always loses people. And with your groups, like when you were there and serving, because of you, I tell you, This is maybe the first time I'm telling you. You made our lives so easy. Me and
Well,
Tony
thank
and
you.
was
Thank
very
you.
helpful, and I want to thank you for doing that. And so, can you share a few words about your experience with Twins Tours and the teachings? And
You know, that is one of the first things that struck us. I mean, we thought Twins Tours, we'd never heard of you before, because we're now on GMP and we're in Israel. And we go, okay, we'd been on a tour before with a cruise line, and they just kind of keep mumbling what's going on. But the first thing that hit us was going through Israel and hearing the historical, the geopolitical, and the scriptural basis of everything that we're seeing. You know, 1 hour bus tour from one place to the next. You were getting this 1 hour lecture on what we're going to see, and then when we got there, you'd see it, and it'd be a review of what you just heard on the bus. But the historical, geopolitical, and scriptural view just blew us out of the water.
so, as if everything came together and the Bible became alive and much more colorful and makes more
Exactly.
sense, correct?
Exactly.
Good.
So that's why we kept coming back. One of the reasons, besides the music, is just to get the information and a better understanding of scriptures and where we are 2,000 years later relative to Jesus being there 2,000 years ago. So it was good.
And the best successful tours is when groups come and not only visit the dead stones or visit the sites, which is great. But if you add a mission to that, or you add a musical component to it and visit the living stones, visiting the churches,
Yeah.
serving the churches, and touring at the same time, that's the best of two worlds, because the Bible will become alive and you will meet with congregations, you meet with the people from the land, and you went to both places. You went to Jewish places and you went to Palestinian places, and you served the Jews and you served the Arabs and you served people from the land of Israel, and you presented the gospel for them in the way of showing the musical love to them, and through music you can reach their hearts. That's a wonderful thing to do to the land here.
Well, the other thing that struck us, you mentioned it, the Jewish, the Palestinian, and the Christian, they all seem to gather together in Jerusalem of all places, and then you say, well, that makes sense, and now you understand why it is like that. So it was like we're really in the center of it all in Jerusalem.
Yes, Jerusalem is the center of the world. Jerusalem is where history started, and Jerusalem is where history will end. So,
Yeah.
Walter, would you like to say a few words about the Twins tours and to encourage people to come now, especially with the epidemic is finishing and we are seeing light at the end of the tunnel and we're seeing few groups coming? Would you like to say something about your experience in Israel and to encourage people to use this opportunity nowadays because things are opening?
Sure. To us, like I said, the Twins tours, the lecturing, the lectures that you gave while we were driving. In fact, I remember one year you had somebody who was Palestinian, I think, and he wasn't a Christian. And it was interesting to hear his perspective, but then going back and forth with us on the bus, that was interesting. But what really struck us was how well organized most of I mean, even the bus drivers were Christian. Um, it just so totally organized and everything went so smoothly. And, like I said, people could go get lost taking pictures, but we never lost them. And I think the whole learning experience of Israel and what it's about, and just, I mean, I keep hearing Nancy say all the time, she says, wow, she says, we were trained this way in our church 2,000 years after the fact, and now we're seeing what really happened. And you can get a grasp of that and say, wow, you can see how it's diverged over the millennia. Okay. So is that. And the other thing that impressed us was, there is a problem between the Palestinians and the Jews, right? And you guys knew, like I remember you talking to the bus driver, let's not go there because there are issues there. But you take us to another place, because there are a lot of things, but we felt safe with you guys.
Yes.
So it was all around. It was educational. We felt safe. We were well taken care of, and you were always there to help.
Great. Thank you so much, Walt, for this interview. Thank you so much for your
Okay.
time. And really, really, we're looking forward just to see you again. And thank you for what you do in Mexico and what God has put on your heart and the sacrifices you have done. You are, and Nancy are, I see so many people, right? I
Yeah.
am with the groups for 20 years and hundreds of people I saw, if not thousands. But I never seen some people with your servant hearts. You have special calling on your life with your servant humble hearts behind the scenes that help so many people. And this is what you're doing in Mexico behind the scenes, and you're still helping so many people. So that's the vocation that God had called you for. And this is who you are. And so many people got blessed from you. And Twins Tours, I want to tell you, Walter, that you blessed us so much, and with your prayers and financially, and you have been a perfect timing that God has sent you to us. So thank you so much for this, like, servant heart. We can see Jesus in your hearts. Thank you so much, Walt.
Well, I appreciate that because you know this, that when you're in a servant mode or serving, you never know what's happening. You just kind of go, okay, I'm doing this, but then you find out, wow, you had an impact on somebody's life. Then it makes it worth it.
Yes, a big impact on people's lives, and
I'm
people
glad to hear
from
that.
Jerusalem, and many families are blessed. And I'm sure many families are blessed also in Mexico too, and through your ministry and through your heart. So thank you so much, Walt, and I'm looking forward to see you again, either in Mexico or in Israel.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, if you're ever here in the North American continent, come down to Mexico, visit us.
Sure, I might surprise you. You never know. I'm traveling all over the world too. So
That'd be good. That'd be good.
great. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're very welcome.